Bonjour.
Well, thank you, interpreter. I hope you'll be able to interpret because I don't understand French.
Good morning, everyone.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour, and welcome to this sixth regional webinar organized by Caritas Internationalis on the occasion of its 70th anniversary. As we recalled during the other webinars, we wanted this anniversary to be a moment of witnessing, and we wanted the entire Confederation to participate in it. And this is why in these 7 weeks leading to the Caritas Internationalis 70th anniversary, which will occur on December 12th, we organize 7 regional webinars. Each one of them is dedicated to one of the 7 Caritas Internationalis region. So today we are very happy to be in the MONA region, Middle East and North Africa Caritas region, and it was a lucky coincidence that rightly today, where we are speaking, the Pope is on a plane heading to Cyprus, where it will also be welcomed by Caritas people on the spot. The webinar of today is entitled Caritas at the Crossroad of Chaos, Witnessing for Justice, Peace and Hope. We all know that this region is experiencing a lot of suffering and a lot of conflict, but Caritas' presence, it is really important. It's a source of light for many people, as we will see today. I would just like to recall you that if you would like to have more information about the different Caritas Internationalis initiatives for this anniversary, you can go on our website, caritas.org, and this meeting will be both in English and French, and there will be translation into French, English, Spanish, and Italian. You just have to click on the translation icon at the bottom of the screen. So, first of all, I would like to introduce Caritas Internationalis Secretary General Aloysius John for some introductory remarks. Please.
La traduction en français, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Martha. Cher Président Gabriel Hatti, chère Excellence, Président de Caritas, chers Karam et collègues de Caritas, collègues directeurs et collaborateurs de Caritas dans MONA et aussi ailleurs. C'est un grand privilège pour moi et un immense plaisir d'ouvrir ce webinaire des témoignages de la réalité que la région vit aujourd'hui à l'occasion du 70e anniversaire de Caritas Internationalis. Votre région est une chance pour la Confédération. Elle est riche en diversité, berceau du christianisme, avec une mosaïque d'églises qui partagent la même foi, une communauté chrétienne qui vit sa foi dans l'espérance et avec courage. Votre région est aussi confrontée à des dures réalités de la violence, la guerre, les sanctions unilatérales imposées de l'extérieur et surtout la souffrance pour les centaines de milliers de femmes, enfants, où les enfants sont privés de leurs droits basiques et où les enfants sont privés aussi de leur enfance. La région Moyen-Orient est aussi la région qui pousse des centaines de milliers à l'exil à cause de la guerre qui tourmente la population. Afrique du Nord est aussi pleine de richesses culturelles et l'Église témoigne par sa présence spirituelle et également par le service aux plus pauvres. Dans tous ces pays de votre région, Caritas a toujours existé comme un symbole de dialogue. Un dialogue par l'action dans un esprit de convivence et de fraternité avec les musulmans. Les communautés chrétiennes, les communautés deviennent l'espace où ce dialogue s'élabore, se développe, pour témoigner que Caritas les aide à vivre en dignité. Grâce à l'œuvre de Caritas, ceux qui obtiennent l'aide de Caritas sont rendus résilients, surtout au moment de grande souffrance. J'étais frappé d'étonnement lors de ma visite au Liban l'année dernière, après l'explosion, quand une travailleuse sociale me disait « Ma maison était détruite par l'explosion et je n'ai rien ». Mais je me suis rendu compte qu'en continuant à aider les autres, comme moi, je vais retrouver mes forces. Sa parole m'a touché. Par l'expression de la compassion aux autres, je vais retrouver mes forces résonner dans mon esprit. C'était une belle leçon de vie pour moi. C'est l'esprit avec lequel Caritas dans la région Mona agit pour donner l'espoir pour tous ceux qui viennent frapper à la Caritas, à la porte de Caritas, les bénéficiaires d'aide et aussi les salariés. Comme cela a été dit, au moment quand le Saint-Père va dans la région, prions que son message de paix soit entendu, sera entendu et fera écho dans l'esprit de tous, y compris les gens qui dirigent ces pays, et que la souffrance des innocents s'arrête. Sans tarder, je laisse la parole à la région et je vous remercie pour votre présence dans ce webinaire. Merci.
Merci Aloysius. Et alors, on va donner la parole à Caritas Mona à partir de son président, M. Gabriel Hatti. M. Gabriel Hatti, on vous écoute.
Merci, Monsieur le Secrétaire général. Merci, Martha, pour avoir organisé ce webinaire. Comme vous l'avez dit hier au REPCO, Monsieur le Secrétaire général, le 70e anniversaire de la Confédération est un moment pour témoigner du travail de notre institution et pour donner une voix aux sans-voix, pour regarder le passé et en même temps l'avenir d'une institution qui suit les signes des temps. Merci donc pour votre accueil et avoir eu l'idée d'organiser ces rencontres. C'est une joie de pouvoir célébrer ce 70e anniversaire avec vous et avec toute la Confédération. Cette célébration aujourd'hui est une occasion pour nous de rendre grâce et de remercier chaque personne et chaque organisation, les plus grandes comme les humbles, employés, volontaires, partenaires et bénéficiaires de Caritas Mona. Chacun à leur manière, ils ont été et sont encore aujourd'hui les pierres d'édifice de la mission de Caritas dans notre région. En regardant les pays qui composent notre région, on pourrait se demander qu'est-ce que vient réunir le Maroc, Chypre ou l'Iran avec Djibouti. En réalité, toutes nos OM ont en commun cette caractéristique si particulière d'être d'église dans un contexte où l'islam est culturellement dominant. Elles sont aussi, à l'image de la région, un pont, un carrefour entre l'Afrique, l'Europe, le Proche et le Moyen-Orient. Le titre de notre webinaire évoque le carrefour des chaos, mais ce carrefour est aussi pour nous un carrefour de dialogue où nous faisons au quotidien l'expérience de ce qu'implique en vérité la vie fraternelle. Le pont est d'ailleurs une image forte par laquelle les églises d'Orient expriment leur vocation vis-à-vis de leurs frères musulmans et le rôle unique que ces chrétiens peuvent jouer vis-à-vis de l'Occident. Qui mieux que les chrétiens d'Orient peut jouer ce rôle d'interprète, si l'on peut dire, permettant de traduire à l'Occident le vécu des musulmans d'Orient avec qui les chrétiens orientaux partagent depuis des siècles la même langue, l'arabe, la même culture, la même terre et la même citoyenneté. Nos Caritas ont d'ailleurs inscrit dans leur gène, comme dans ceux de nos sociétés, cet appel permanent au dialogue, à l'accueil mutuel de la diversité et à la collaboration avec tous en vue du bien commun. Comme vous pouvez l'imaginer, ce chemin que nous prenons ensemble n'est pas facile. Il se déroule le plus souvent dans l'urgence et dans des conditions extrêmes. Des guerres, des occupations, des pressions politiques et économiques, des sanctions. Aucun pays de notre région n'est épargné. Pensons par exemple à la situation en Irak, aux embargos et aux sanctions que supporte la population en Syrie ou en Iran, à l'effondrement économique du Liban, aux conditions de vie en Palestine, aux conflits en Libye, mais aussi à la pauvreté et aux conditions climatiques à Djibouti ou sécuritaires et humanitaires en Somalie. Pensons aussi aux défis auxquels font face les autres Caritas du Moyen-Orient, comme l'Égypte, la Jordanie et Chypre, ainsi que les Caritas d'Afrique du Nord, la Tunisie, l'Algérie, le Maroc et la Mauritanie. Bien qu'il soit ardu, ce chemin est aussi une grâce, car toutes ces difficultés constituent pour Caritas une véritable opportunité, celle de se réajuster en permanence au but pour lequel elle a été créée et de chercher à être toujours plus fidèle à ses valeurs et au cœur de ce qui constitue sa mission, l'amour concret et gratuit au service de toute personne humaine dans le besoin et en vue du développement humain intégral, dans un esprit synodal et inspiré par les encycliques Fratelli Tutti et Laudato Si. C'est ce que nous aurons l'occasion de voir dans la suite du webinaire. Je vous laisse donc avec le coordinateur régional pour plus de détails sur la situation actuelle de notre région. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, M. Hatti. Alors, on donne la parole à Karam Abi Yazbeck, le coordinateur régional de Caritas Mona. Karam, à toi.
Merci, Marta. I will speak in English, so we'll give the chance to the interpreters to rest a bit. Thank you, everyone, for attending, for joining this webinar. I know during this pandemic period, we're having a lot of webinars, so this is an additional one, and we're happy that we're all together today. In my presentation, I'll be also very quick, and to complete what my president was saying, I will go very quickly to do a small introduction about our region. And we know very well that this region is affected by wars and conflict, some of which are recent and others are much older. But I will not today stress only on that. If you look to this map, you will see that in our region, we have a lot of red colors, which means high risk. You can see that there is a security risk and there is political risk. On security level, you can see that some countries are fine, like Morocco, Gulf countries, even a big part of Iran. While on political level, you will see those squares where it's high and extreme, like Algeria, Sudan, Iran, even Iraq. There is high security concern and risk, and some others really extreme risk at political level, especially in Libya, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, as well as an occupied territory of Palestine. But I will not focus only on that and concerning as well refugees. You know that in our region, a lot of refugees are mainly from Syria, but as well from other region of this other country of this region. And our we shouldn't focus only on the symptoms like refugees, war, but also there is causes. And the main causes of those tensions and crises in our region are mainly related to corruption, lack of accountability locally, as well as foreign influence. And you know that we have proxy wars and a lot of tension in our region since very long time. This is our region that you see. Caritas Mona is composed of 15 member organizations in the Middle East, in North Africa, as well as Horn of Africa. During those 5 minutes, I will not stress only on tension and crisis. I would like also to show you a bit some nice places from our region. So I will not focus on Syria because we will have our colleagues from Caritas Syria, they will have their own presentation, as well as the colleagues from Caritas Lebanon. They will present about Caritas, about the situation in Lebanon and the project. Cyprus, our colleague will speak about the visit of the Pope, who will arrive today, as Marta was saying. And as well, Caritas Mauritania will have a small presentation. I will take you on a small trip, virtual trip, around the other country of our region, very quickly. Let me start first with Iran on the extreme east of our region. I don't know how many of you visited already Iran, but what we see usually in the media and in the all the TVs about Iran is mainly the crisis and some different images. But Iran also, the old Persian Empire, they have a lot of culture and nice places to see. But the contradiction as well, and you will see in each slide I'll present some contradiction. The contradiction as well is linked to the economic situation, linked to the sanctions in Iran. And you all know since long years ago, it has been affecting the country and the economy and the population. And here I'm talking about the impact. And you see in this picture that even exchange office, they do not put anymore the exchange rate because it's changing every day and sometimes every minute or an hour. So nowadays, for example, €1 is equivalent to 330,000 riyal, which is the second after Venezuela, most devaluated currency in the world, the poorest country in the world after Venezuela. From Iran, let me take you to Iraq, close by, and Iraq as well, a very rich country in culture. Maybe you all heard about the Babylon culture and all this area of empires and rich in many things. But as well in Iraq has been suffering since 1980, between Iraq and Iran, the war. So we're talking about almost 41 years of wars. Before that with Kurdish, but in 80s with Iran, and later on Kuwait and the invasion and all the story of Iraq. And Iraq so far today is still passing through very difficult time. In addition to corruption, inflation, and all the problems, there is plenty of internal conflicts and internal tension in the country. From Iraq, let's move a bit to the south, to Somalia. And in Somalia, you know very well, there is a lot of culture, and it's known to have a very, very old civilization. And here you're seeing like an old cave in Somalia that dates 9,000 years ago, where we can find trace of human beings. But Somalia as well, and like many and even worse than other places, is in war and is divided into many different small countries. And it is rated as the most corrupt country in the world by Transparency International. And this corruption is leading to high level of poverty, but as well as insecurity. From Somalia, I'm fast, but we don't have too much time, but let's move to Djibouti. This small country, very small country near Somalia, and Djibouti is a very nice country. This is the Lake Assal, which is a very nice lake in Djibouti. And what you see is salt, pure salt. And it's like the Dead Sea, a place with a high level of salt in the sea density. And it's a very nice place with hot water spring. But Djibouti as well is suffering from poverty, especially with the war in Yemen. Yemen, that you all know the crisis, plenty of refugees are crossing the sea to come to Djibouti, which is already a poor country. We're talking about 79% poverty rate, as well as 42% extreme poverty in Djibouti. Moving back to Jordan, they have one of the it's something that you cannot find elsewhere, Petra. Petra is a very nice place where you can see a lot of sculpture in the rocks, and it's of course nice to visit. But even Jordan may be one of the most stable country in our region so far. But Jordan also, they are having many problems. One of them, receiving many refugees, especially Syrian refugees, as well as Lebanon and Turkey. But Jordan also, they have lack of resources, mainly water resources. From Jordan, I will move to the occupied Palestinian territory. And you all know the Holy Land. We know that Jerusalem is a place for Christianity, Islam, and Jewish. But unfortunately, this rich place, and which is important for all of us, and this is in the same time a place of division. And especially, I'm talking about the wall in Jerusalem and elsewhere in the West Bank. And the biggest problem, as you know, when we talk about the OPT, Occupied Palestinian Territory, is the big O, the occupation, which is affecting many things in this country as well as in Gaza. Moving to Egypt, and Egypt is known with their history and architecture and all what you know and mystery, but Egypt as well is suffering from many issues, mainly the population rate, but as well severe water scarcity. Moving to Libya, and Libya as well, for those who don't know, is very rich, especially with the Roman, with some Roman ruins being during the Roman Empire a main hub. Now Libya is having a lot of crises, and one of the big crises is linked to the human trafficking and refugee and migrants. And until today, 2021, there is no official statistics, but so far, almost 1,000 migrants died in the Mediterranean Sea, leaving Libya. From Libya, we move to Tunisia, a nice country with nice beaches and resorts, but Tunisia also is having some political and economic crisis and tension. From Tunisia, we move to Algeria as well, a nice country. You've heard, of course, about Notre Dame d'Afrique, but Algeria also having some tensions, and they pass through a lot of security issues and terrorism. And Morocco, and here you're seeing a photo from Marrakesh, a very nice city. They say that Marrakesh, and mainly this place, the place of the mosque of Jama al-Fna, that it's open 365 days per year. So it's the place in the world where it's always in animation. It's very known. But we have this big tension between Morocco and Algeria now. Also, tension is raising, without forgetting also the Western Africa, the Western Sahara in Africa. As I said, I'll not talk about Mauritania. We'll have a presentation about Mauritania. Thank you. That was in brief, a quick overview, a quick flight over our country and our region. And I will leave the floor to our colleagues from different member organizations to speak more about their Caritas and their country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karam, for this really comprehensive overview of the work of Caritas in the region. And now we are also going to Cyprus, where Elizabeth Kassinin, the director of Caritas Cyprus, is ready to welcome in the Holy Father. Caritas Cyprus is really committed, especially for supporting migrants, and so we will hear from Elizabeth more about their work and also their expectation for this important visit. Elizabeth, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if maybe I had taken some photos, because a photo, of course, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for the initiative and for organizing these sessions, which I think bring us all together, and they give us an excuse to not only see each other's faces from across the globe, but also to talk about issues of common interest. We do have the sort of honor of being part of the Pope's visit he's arriving this afternoon, and will be here tomorrow. I don't know if I can share my screen, or perhaps I think it's an imperfect slideshow. If someone, Karam, I think that Saria was going to do it from, let me try.
Yes, you can share from your.
Okay, I know. Sorry, I'm not good at this. There we go. Okay. Is this working? Ah, very good. Okay. So yes, it's not, they're my imperfect photos from this morning, but I wanted to give you a sense of the, if we go back to the first one, you know, Cyprus, as you know, has we have this weird, we are at a crossroads between the two regions. So we are in the Mona region, but we're also, of course, connected to Europe. And so we are also on the pattern of the migration flows towards Europe, which is featuring very much in the Pope's agenda when he arrives. So to give you a sense, this is what I looked at when I arrived today. You're looking directly at the buffer zone in Nicosia, which is still a divided capital. So you can see the local police and the UN, because the buffer zone runs along the top of what we're looking at. And in the distance is Holy Cross. And the barrels at the end of the street are in fact the UN buffer zone. So this is what there's no traffic today. It's actually quite quiet down in the neighborhood. Usually our migrant center fills that entire space that you see there. The fathers we've had to come outside to provide our services because of COVID. And so generally we have been seeing, unfortunately, in the last month, about 300 to 400 people a day seeking our assistance in one way or another. We've had to change our entire way of doing things because it's become untenable. So we can't register beneficiaries the way we did, and instead are providing orientation sessions for larger groups. Just to give you a sense, so this is the approach, and then maybe we can go to the next slide. I don't know, am I doing it? Can you do it for me? There, the next one, there we go. And this is sort of as you get closer to Holy Cross. And it was an interesting scene this morning. Everyone is cleaning, obviously. So the orders of the nuns that are around us are cleaning up, and the barrels. And then the next one, to give you I'll go through the Pope's schedule. So he will arrive this evening, where he will go to the Maronite. He will arrive at the Maronite Cathedral in Nicosia. And I'll show you that photo in a few minutes, but he will be staying here on the compound of the Vatican, which is right on the buffer zone. And this is the Church of Holy Cross. This is also just behind this gate is where the migrant center, the home of our migrant center is. And so we have a small Laudato Si garden that we planted last year that we try to nurture. And so it's in the photo here. He will then, Pope Francis will then go to visit the president. In the morning, he will meet with the Orthodox Archbishop, Chrysostomos. He'll meet with the Synod of the Orthodox Church of Cyprus before proceeding to the large stadium for the Mass. At last count, there were over 5,000 people who were expected. Part of the challenge is getting them all here from across the island, and since many of them, of course, are also working, it's difficult on a Friday morning, but it seems as if several will be able to make it. And then we have been part of the planning and organization of the ecumenical service with migrants and refugees that is planned for tomorrow afternoon. There will be a small presentation on the work of Caritas as part of that, as Caritas Cyprus, as well as testimony from 4 of our beneficiaries who will talk about the migrant journey. There's been a tremendous press interest, as you can imagine. We're thankful to Caritas Internationalis for coordinating an effort, including with Caritas Mona and Caritas Hellas in Greece, about messaging. The interest is really focused on the increasing number of asylum seekers. Cyprus right now is receiving more asylum seekers per capita than anywhere in Europe. So it is a frontline state that is struggling and is asking the European Union for assistance, as well as for some unusual measures, such as suspending the asylum procedures, which is highly controversial. Cyprus suffers from the complications because of the dividing green line that we were talking about. A lot of people are coming over. They are finding their way to Turkey, either by air or by foot. And so they are coming into the territory of the Turkish Cypriot community, the northern part of Cyprus, and coming then into the Republic to seek asylum, which is very, very controversial because of the regional role that Turkey is playing and the unresolved conflict and the nature of the buffer zone. There's of course a lot of curiosity. So then this is the garden, and I'll walk you through. So these are some of the things. Thank you for clicking to the next slide. So the Pope will stay, as I said, behind here. If you could go to the next slide, these are some of the banners. We're looking directly at the buffer zone. This is the entrance to our office, which is empty today and full of generators and all kinds of arrival. There's a lot of activity, as you can imagine. And then this is the Maronite Cathedral, which is where he was the first stop on the Pope's visit. There has been a lot of curiosity from the press about whether or not Pope Francis will take some migrants with him, as he did, I think, in 2016 when he visited Lesbos. So there's a lot of speculation in the international press. We shall see tomorrow. So thank you so much for your attention, and it's lovely to share with you some of the views from our windows today.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and our best wishes for this important visit. And now we will travel to Mauritania, where also Caritas work. It's very important, and its mission taking care of all of the people, regardless of the religion. So I will ask Monsieur Benoît Boulangé to intervene. Please, thank you.
Bonjour à tous. Je suis très content de vous partager notre réalité en Mauritanie. Je vais partager mon écran pour vous montrer quelques photos. Voilà, j'espère qu'elles sont visibles maintenant.
Oui.
Parfait. Alors, la Mauritanie est située en Afrique du Nord, dans le Sahel, avec une superficie d'1 million de kilomètres carrés environ. Nous sommes 4 millions d'habitants, ce qui en fait une petite population pour un grand territoire. 31% de la population vit en dessous du seuil de pauvreté, avec moins de $1 par jour et par personne. 74% de la population pauvre est rurale. Et c'est le premier élément de contexte que je vous partage. Nous sommes dans un pays sujet à l'insécurité alimentaire de manière chronique. Ce problème est associé à celui du manque d'eau pour la consommation humaine ou animale, pour l'agriculture, ce qui engendre l'exode rural. Nouakchott, la capitale du pays, abrite à elle seule plus de 1 million d'habitants, un peu plus du quart. La population se caractérise par sa jeunesse. Les moins de 15 ans représentent 44%. Et cependant, un quart de la population des enfants en âge d'aller à l'école ne va pas à l'école. Le taux de chômage est élevé, 32%, et c'est le deuxième élément de compréhension de contexte que je partage, le manque d'instruction de la population, peu de diplômés dans les métiers techniques, un faible accès à l'insertion professionnelle. Et en l'absence de débouchés, il y a un risque de tension sociale, un risque de radicalisation. Je continue par les défis auxquels sont confrontés notre Caritas. J'en ai deux à partager. Le premier, c'est celui d'une Caritas qui travaille en milieu entièrement musulman, pour et avec la population musulmane, car il n'y a pas de communauté chrétienne significative pour relayer la solidarité Caritas dans les quartiers périphériques ou dans les régions rurales. À travers la promotion humaine, nous arrivons à maintenir une vision des valeurs et des principes conformes à l'esprit Caritas dans le dialogue interculturel. Comme on ne fait pas de prosélytisme, je parle de dialogue interculturel plutôt que de dialogue interreligieux. Mais nous avons des religieuses catholiques du diocèse qui contribuent à nos activités dans les équipes. Le deuxième défi, c'est celui de l'inclusion sociale. Il y a des tensions communautaires et Caritas contribue à la collaboration des communautés dans des plans d'action qui les concernent. Entre groupes d'origine
I think Monsieur Boulangé had some technical problem. Let's see whether we can fix the line. Okay, let's say while maybe it might try to reconnect, we will jump to the next speaker, Monsieur Riad Sargi, who is the director of Caritas Syria. As we all know, Syria is another country where the population is really experiencing great suffering. This year, we marked the 10 years since the beginning of the war in 2011, and Caritas was always there at the side of the population, giving support, but especially giving hope and working for peace. So we will learn more about this crucial work from Monsieur Sargi. So please, Riad Sargi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. And everybody. Congratulations, Internationalis.
The speaker's sound is very, very bad. Practically impossible to understand.
Much better now? Yes, you hear me much better now?
Yes, I don't know whether you have your computer or maybe your telephone close to the... Can you try again?
The sound is okay now? Do you hear me?
Yes, it's better.
It's better. If you maybe can go closer to the microphone.
Great. Thank you very much and good morning, everybody. And okay. And congratulations for the anniversary of Caritas Internationalis 70 years. And hope to go ahead in your activities and your demand to the poorest people. In fact, as you know, we passed more than 10 years and a half for the Syrian crisis, and now the war is stopped in different. Still in the north area of Syria, the conflict still between the armies, but the majority of the Syrian territory now in safe side. But the problem now, big problem, is the economical situations, because Syria lost around 2/3 of the local income. And Caritas Syria, for the activities of Caritas Syria helps nearly 200,000 beneficiaries every year through multiple and varied activities, from food basket to hygiene basket, educational programs, renovating schools and houses, as well as providing PSS support to the children, establishing also child-friendly space centers and children garden in Aleppo also, and distribution drinking tanks and drinking water for the people in Al-Hasake because of cutting off of the water on them, as well as medical projects to help patients, including medicines, X-rays, and blood analysis, outpatient and inpatients. Also assistance to cancer patients, closing awareness session, literacy for adults, project to help the elderly people. Livelihood project recently, and distribution of multi-purpose cash to beneficiaries has been started since 2 years ago, around 2 years ago. In fact, Syrians have paid all the cost of the war during the past 10 years. In terms of killing them, 400,000 people killed, and maybe 500 to 600,000 injured by the war. Internally, displacement and refugees and destruction not only didn't distinguish between houses, public facilities, or medical or educational centers. There are some figures. Then 5.6 million people left Syria. 1/3 of them are children under 12, Lebanon, Jordan, neighboring countries, and also in European countries. 6.7 million left their villages and cities, moving to several areas in Syria, IDP inside Syria. 2.4 million Syrian children are outside the educational system. 12.4 million people don't have access to food and heating. 60% of the children are in urgent need for education, food, and heating. 13.4 million people need humanitarian assistance. Syrian pound becomes 70 times more since the beginning of the crisis. The average of monthly salary of employees in public sector is equivalent now to $30 per month. Yani around $1 per day. A family of 5 people needs to spend an amount equivalent to $350 per month as basic expenses. Good quality bread has increased 60 times more since the start of the crisis. The price of one egg, let's say, is 300 Syrian pounds, whereas before the crisis was 3 Syrian pounds, yani 100 times more. Infrastructure loses 70% of electricity stations destroyed. 35% of schools have been destroyed. 70% of healthcare workers left Syria. 50% of health and infrastructure has
Riad? This is an example of the problems we face in our region.
Indeed, indeed. We really
yes, we understand this. Yeah,
and we
live demonstration.
So maybe I was informed that Monsieur Boulangé is back. Maybe we can try to go back to Mauritania and then try to connect again with Syria. This is a true testimony of what the condition also in which they have to work. So, Monsieur Boulangé, if you're there, maybe you can continue.
Très bien. Je vous remercie. Je suis désolé, mais ça nous arrive tous les jours d'être coupé. Je vais repartager mon écran. Voilà. Et là où j'en étais arrêté. Alors, je m'étais arrêté au défi de l'inclusion sociale. Donc, je continue en vous partageant quelques interventions que nous faisons. Vous avez là, nous sommes dans une commune périphérique de la capitale. Avec l'exode et les déplacements de quartiers précaires, cette commune de Darnaïm est devenue la deuxième plus peuplée de Nouakchott. Caritas y accompagne depuis 2014 des dynamiques sociales. Nous travaillons avec les personnes vulnérables, femmes chefs de famille, jeunes gens et jeunes filles en déperdition scolaire, avec des organisations de la société civile, des associations de jeunesse, des groupements de quartier. Comme leçon apprise de cette intervention, je vais citer parmi d'autres, s'agissant des femmes avec qui nous travaillons, une majorité de femmes changent de comportement. Elles sont conscientes qu'elles peuvent améliorer leur situation. Elles participent aux classes d'alphabétisation, aux formations, aux ateliers d'échange, malgré leurs nombreuses activités. L'alphabétisation permet à ces femmes d'être capables de lire, d'écrire, de mieux gérer leurs activités économiques. Elles intègrent la notion de gestion. Elles pratiquent l'épargne. Des liens de solidarité se créent entre des femmes d'un même quartier. Les femmes sont plus soucieuses de l'éducation de leurs enfants et on voit émerger un leadership féminin. S'agissant des jeunes, les jeunes sont dans une dynamique de projet maintenant, de projet professionnel. Ils ont repris confiance en eux, ils s'impliquent dans des activités de quartier et là aussi, on voit émerger l'émergence d'un leadership chez certains jeunes. Concernant le problème de l'insertion professionnelle des analphabètes, Caritas gère un centre de formation dédié spécialement, comme sur cette photo, aux catégories de population vulnérables. S'agissant des organisations de la société civile qui travaillent avec Caritas, on se rend compte que certaines sont en capacité maintenant d'écrire leurs projets. Elles obtiennent des petits financements auprès de bailleurs de fonds locaux. Elles se connaissent et organisent des échanges entre elles. Et maintenant, il y a une bonne collaboration entre ces associations et la commune de Darnaïm. S'agissant des associations de jeunesse, les clubs sportifs, les associations culturelles ont pris conscience qu'ils ont un rôle à jouer et des capacités. Ils sont actifs dans la résolution de problèmes de développement communautaire, j'en cite quelques-uns, le ramassage d'ordures, les soirées culturelles, les activités de lutte contre les violences faites aux femmes, les plantations d'arbres. Des jeunes de différentes communautés travaillent ensemble et un dialogue a été instauré entre des groupes de jeunes et la mairie. Et les jeunes garçons sont sensibilisés aux problèmes de genre, ils acceptent et valorisent la participation des filles. Je me permets de citer la phrase d'un de mes collaborateurs qui disait « Le changement chez les jeunes est perceptible, que ce soit les filles ou les garçons. Sous leur impulsion, les hommes, les femmes, les enfants du quartier prennent conscience de ce qui les unit et de la force que cette union pourrait engendrer. » Je change de territoire par rapport au problème de l'insécurité alimentaire, au problème en milieu rural, malgré les changements climatiques, Malgré les terres arides ancestrales, l'enjeu est de maintenir les populations sur leur terroir. Suivant que l'on est en zone aride, comme sur cette photo, ou en zone fluviale, les modalités pratiques changent, mais toujours visant la sécurité alimentaire et la résilience. L'appui aux campagnes agricoles, au maraîchage, à l'élevage, la fourniture de gaz pour préserver le bois et l'environnement, le tout sur le mode du développement communautaire villageois, avec des groupements agricoles, avec des groupements féminins, et les activités appartiennent aux villageois. Enfin, puisque nous nous adressons surtout aux plus vulnérables, je cite notre action à l'intérieur des prisons du pays. Travaillons à l'action des conditions. Et dernière vulnérabilité que j'évoque, nous sommes au bord des côtes atlantiques. En mer, il se joue des drames. Il y a des pirogues de migrants qui passent au large. Et au nord du pays, il y a des naufrages et des drames humains. Et la mission catholique s'occupe en urgence de drames humains, de naufragés. Je cite un dernier chiffre. En 2020, près de 5% de la population bénéficie directement ou indirectement de l'accompagnement de Caritas. Voilà ce que je voulais partager avec vous pour exprimer comment notre Caritas témoigne de la paix, de la justice et de l'espérance. Merci pour votre attention. C'était un plaisir.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Boulangé. And so we continue. I know that Riad Sargi from Caritas Syria is back. Let's see whether he will be able to connect. Okay. I'm afraid we are still having some technical problem because we can hear echo.
Do you hear me? Technical problem because of the electricity of the wireless and so on. Now it's better.
I'm sorry, no, it's quite difficult to understand you. In the meantime, we will start by
better.
In the meantime, while we'll try to fix your connection, we will share a video on the work of Caritas Syria.
Do you hear me?
No voice.
Oh, we cannot hear the audio.
You cannot hear the audio, Marta? Marta, maybe we must mute the other microphones to hear the audio.
Martha, il faut poursuivre là. Je pense que vous comprendrez combien notre région est difficile. Mais si ça peine à bouger, il faut continuer la session.
Oui, on va continuer. Mais Syria, on ne peut pas écouter l'audio de la vidéo.
Bien sûr qu'il faut absolument revenir à la Syrie. C'est important.
Martha, je vais essayer une deuxième fois.
OK.
Ça marche?
Hello, I'm Kinda Salibi, the program coordinator in Caritas Syria. Caritas Syria is operating through 6 regional offices and are in charge of implementing about 20 programs and projects in total. These projects are covering a wide range of humanitarian needs of Syrian people.
عم بينسمع أو لا؟
Thank you very much, Saria. So, Riad, I'm afraid that we still having some problem, but thank you very much for your speech and your testimony. And now we are going back to Cyprus because the president of Caritas Lebanon is at this moment is in Cyprus, also ready for welcoming the Pope. And so I give now the floor to Father Michel Abboud, who will present the situation in another critical country, Lebanon.
Thank you. To give always this opportunity to speak about our situation. So my introduction is about 5 minutes, and after David continues about the education sector, and I prepared my speech in English. Today I would like to explain to you the crisis and many challenges facing Lebanon, starting by an interesting story which a school teacher once shared with me. He told me one time this teacher was in school, and during the recess, the break, he saw through his office window 2 children fighting. He rushed towards them, trying to stop the fight. He noticed that one of them had been holding a sandwich and dropped it on the floor during the fight. He picked up the sandwich and saw that it was only bread without anything inside of it. He started searching for cheese on the floor or another thing, thinking that it must have fallen on the floor, but he couldn't find anything. He surprisingly asked the student what was inside the sandwich. The child refused to answer. But when the teacher insisted, the boy told him, I had nothing inside my sandwich. It was empty. Afterwards, the teacher discovered that this boy comes from a big family and the salary of the father was not enough and they can only afford plain bread. For sure, in Caritas, we decided to react promptly and we found many more similar cases after. I am sharing with you this story as a summary of the effect of the crisis in the society in many ways, especially on the economic and educational level. Let me start by explaining the economic side of crisis. Lebanon has been in a severe socio-political and economic crisis for 2 years, which got worse by the political confusion, the pandemic, and the Beirut blast. The financial crisis is severely affected everyone, small depositors, the labor force, and small business. The situation has also impacted public-based services such as electricity, water, education, hospitalization, and of the services national social security. You know that the Lebanese currency lost up to 90% of its value, leading to a huge increase in the prices of all basic needs. People don't have any more access to foreign currency except for the fresh dollar accounts allowing depositors to withdraw dollars sent from abroad under specific conditions. The crisis also is hitting the fuel market, leading to a shortage of imported fuel, forcing hospitals, bakeries, and business to scale back or shut down. Shortage of food and other goods are affecting people's access to good nutrition. Moreover, extended electricity cuts are causing food poisoning. The majority of the families would soon find it very difficult to put food on their table, according to a report issued by the Crisis Observatory at the American University of Beirut. We are facing challenges on all the levels and sectors. The number of people who are coming to Caritas requesting help because they are not able to afford the hospitalization fees, especially that the prices have increased, and we are immediately aiding and paying those charges as much as we can. A lot of people are dying because they don't have electricity to keep their oxygen machines running, and we are trying to helping them. Many people are dying in silence. Since we have started the medical campaigns, which we are organizing all over Lebanon, we were surprised of the huge and unbelievable number of beneficiaries coming to benefit from these services. By example, for 18 campaigns, we have received around 8,000 people. They came asking for consultation for their neglected illnesses and ailments. They came to us asking for medicine because they are not able to afford buying them on their own. We can't stay still and remain silent in front of the sorrows and sufferings of the people who once used to donate to us. So, believe me, I still feel shocked when we face some challenging cases. Also, I give you another example 2 weeks ago. Recently, a 16-year-old girl approached Caritas, my office, and is my assistant, asked if she could work for Caritas in any available vacancy. We were surprised and immediately asked her, how could she be asking for a job when she should be in school? She told us that she is planning to leave school in order to help her father, who is unable to provide for the family of 4 children after her mother abandoned left them. Of course, we didn't accept to let her work at that age and decided to adopt her and pay the fees of the school. We pay her tuition. We even discovered later that she is diabetic and her sister has certain eye illness. We also took care of their treatment. I give example. We are facing similar cases. Also, children at her age repeatedly trying to commit suicide. We receive many news about because the parents can't provide them that they want. These cases are only a few out of many we are dealing with, and we are saddened when people come to us asking for assistance and we are unable to help. Yes, sometimes in our centers or our sectors, we do not have enough resources to help everyone. The amount of vulnerable people is increasing daily, and nothing hurt us more than not being to stand next to the ones who knocked on our doors requesting our help. About the educational sector in Lebanon, I let David speaks about. The future is dark. We are trying to survive. We are helping people with their basic needs: food, shelter, medicine, hospitalization, and education. We don't know what awaits us, but we need to help our people and community to survive and overcome this crisis. Lebanon must not fall. And I am sure that once we pass this dark tunnel, we will return this help one day to us. Okay, I let now with the video with David, I don't know who, to show you. Thanks.
مرة بنتأخر دايما على الوقت، نوصل ومنبلش الشغل، دايما منسابق الزمن تنكون حد الناس الموجوعين والمحزونين. من أول يوم على جريمة بيروت وبسرعة قياسية وصلوا متطوعي كاريتاس وبلشوا من أول ليلة بمساعدة وتنظيم عمليات إسعاف الجرحى أمام المستشفيات قبل ما ينطلقوا ثاني يوم بأعمال رفع الأنقاض والركام. على أثر الانفجار وبأسابيع معدودة أنجزوا 1678 خدمة تنظيف للبيوت والأماكن العامة وقدموا 22141 طبق يومي ساخن. بمنطقة الأشرفية تدمر 3 من مراكزنا، بس تحت الخيم بمرم خايل وبساحة ساسين كملنا المهمة بشوارع العاصمة الجريحة واستنفرت 3 من عياداتنا النقالة 9 لمساعدة كل الجرحى والمواطنين اللي شردوا الانفجار من بيوتهم. 46,683 خدمة صحية تتضمن 35,553 دواء، 6,258 معاينة طبية، 1,244 تحاليل مخبرية ومساعدات طبية نقدية، دعم نفسي ل 3,013 شخص. وعلى مدار السنة من بعد 4 آب بقينا على الأرض بنفس الاندفاع وبلا تعب، همنا نرد أهلنا على بيوتهم بأسرع وقت ونأمن لهم حاجتهم الأساسية. 184,199 مساعدة غذائية بتتضمن 250,000 كيلو طحين، 46,405 كيلو رز، 1,185 لتر زيت. زرنا البيوت المشلعة والتقينا أصحابها وبلشنا ورش الترميم مع فريق الريد هيلمتس اللي بضم 18 مهندس و50 متعهد وعشرات معلمين البنى من اللبنانيين، وأنجزنا ترميم 1819 بيت و161 مؤسسة تجارية تنحافظ على وجود الناس بأرضها وعاصمتها. كل هيدا بسواعد لبنانية تنأمن لها وظائف بعز هالمأساة. وبالإضافة للترميم أمنا أكثر من 8,283 مساعدة عينية منزلية. هيدي المواجهة ما اقتصرت على جبهة وحدة، لأن تهديد كورونا كان بأوله، وبتحدي جديد قررنا نأمن 183,861 من مستلزمات الوقاية الشخصية ولوازم التنظيف. والأزمة الاقتصادية كانت عم تقطع حليب الأطفال من الأسواق، فوزعنا 22,202 علبة حليب و10,984 عينة من أكل ولوازم عناية للأطفال، وقدمنا أكثر من 18,357 مساعدة نقدية مختلفة. ثالث أكبر انفجار بالعالم ما منقبل نواجه تداعياته إلا بأكبر تصميم. بمساعدة مراكزنا الاجتماعية والصحية 89 بعدنا متأهبين بكل لبنان، وبوابنا مفتوحة للكل. على مدى 50 سنة من الكوارث والأزمات الاقتصادية والإنسانية، ولا مرة إلا ما كنا حاضرين لمواجهة التحديات مع مجتمعنا. من 50 سنة وكاريتاس شعلت أمل ورجاء بوش اليأس.
Thank you, Father Abboud, for your speech and also for this video that really shows us the importance of the work of Caritas Lebanon in a country which is experiences a tremendous crisis, and that was the situation that was worsened because of the blast which occurred last year in Beirut. As for the other webinars, we wanted to link today's webinar with a concrete project in order for the people attending this webinar or looking for information on our website to contribute with a symbolic gesture to one of the Caritas projects. And in this case, for this webinar about Caritas Mona region, we wanted to propose benefactors and friends to support one project of Caritas Lebanon, which is about education, because the future of Caritas Lebanon, as Father Abboud pointed out, is it's also in our end. We wanted to support, we wanted to avoid children and young people to drop out of school because of the economic crisis, and Caritas Lebanon is really working hard in this field. So I'll give now the floor to David Elkins, who is the Head of Program Development and Quality Assurance of Caritas Lebanon, who will talk to us about this program that you can support through Caritas Internationalis website on caritas.org. So David, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Salah. Good afternoon, everyone, and it's a real pleasure to be with you all on the 70th anniversary. What I'd like to do today is to talk about one of the programs that Caritas is focusing on in education. We're active in schools throughout the country. We have 4 schools focusing specifically on special education, which is funded primarily through the Caritas office to ensure that it functions on a day-to-day basis. One of the new activities that Caritas Lebanon has been active in has been the development of an education trust. And I'd like to do a quick overview of what the trust is about. Let's see if we can share screens. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Great. So the development of the Education Trust of Lebanon was primarily due to the response of the children's crisis in education. In summary, the social and economic crisis in Lebanon is turning into an education catastrophe. We have vulnerable children facing a real risk of never returning to school. Truly a missing generation in Lebanon. Since the pandemic, more than 1.2 million children in Lebanon have been out of school. And over this past COVID-19 year, which has challenged all of us, Lebanese children have received an estimated maximum of 11 weeks of education, with an even lower number of weeks in schools for Syrian children. 82% of Lebanese families are now living in poverty, with even higher rates among the Palestinian and Syrian refugees. Poverty is a steep barrier for children's access to education, and many families cannot afford learning equipment or have to rely on children to provide an income. Many children in Lebanon have been out of school since October 2019, when protests and civil unrest affected many parts of the country. The same year, multiple teacher strikes have delayed salary payments, further disrupting learning. Right now, teachers are earning on average about $75 a month. The learning crisis is further compounded by the currency collapse and the Beirut explosion, and of course, the COVID-19 lockdown measures. Truly a perfect storm in catastrophes. The semi-private and private schools have not received any subsidies from the state since 2015, so 6 years ago. Semi-private schools who are welcoming mostly the poor students of Lebanon have become a financial burden for the churches and the Catholic congregations who are bearing all of their financial costs. In summary, the impact of all this is that Lebanon's Catholic schools are at risk of closure. 80% of Catholic schools, which provide education to approximately 2/3 of students in Lebanon's private institutions, may close for this coming school year due to the lack of government aid. Unpaid tuition in Catholic schools has amounted to over 32 million. And this calculation was before Lebanon's financial crisis took a free fall and has been exacerbated by the nationwide protests against the corrupt ruling class that erupted a month later, followed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Lebanon hosts the greatest number of refugees per capita in the world, and literally within the country of Lebanon, 1 out of every 4 people are a refugee in the country. Both refugees and local populations continue to feel the negative impacts of the protracted civil war in Syria, which has already been highlighted, and it's been combined with steep economic deterioration. We've been very fortunate that the Pope has been in great solidarity with Lebanon. And in 2020, Pope Francis sent a donation of $200,000 to support 400 scholarships from students in Lebanese Catholic schools. Some people ask, so why are the Catholic schools so important? And I think this quote from Father Jean Younes in the Principal of Cadmus College kind of summarizes that the history of Catholic schools in Lebanon shows that they have played a great role in supporting national unity between Christians and Muslims. In many areas, the Catholic schools may be composed of up to 70% Muslims and 30% Christians. The focus by the principals, however, is creating that unity of spirit within the community. So how are we going to respond to this? Caritas Lebanon developed an Education Trust of Lebanon, which is a response to this crisis in Lebanon. Our objective is to ensure that 120,000 of Lebanon's most vulnerable children rejoin the school system by contributing to their tuition and supporting 235 Christian schools and 6 universities to remain open. The trust is a partnership between Loup d'Orient, which has maintained a database over the last 2 years of over 300 Catholic schools. And in support from the French government, we're able to support tuition for students in 100 schools, reaching 55,000 students. Our second key partner is the General Secretary of Catholic Schools in Lebanon. They're critical because they provide the overall administration of the Catholic schools. And finally, Live Love Lebanon, which is a national NGO focusing on social media and fundraising. We also have observers in the partnership, including the Apostolic Nuncio to Lebanon and the Ad Hoc Committee of the General Assembly of Catholic Patriarchs and the Bishops of Lebanon. So, as I mentioned, the Trust has selected 235 schools and 6 universities. The criteria of who is in greatest crisis has been developed by Loup d'Orient. And in this first phase 1, again, we're reaching 120,000 students. The average partial tuition is around 30 euros per student, but that may range from 20% of the total tuition up to 90% depending on need. So that's the first component, is tuition. The second component is to support the schools themselves in the payment of fuel for generators, insurance, maintenance, and transportation. All of these costs have doubled or tripled and probably quadrupled at this point, and are now valued in international prices. And this additional support to the schools will be loaded on top of this tuition of the student support at 35%. The third component is through the development of the Private Education School Platform, or PESP. And so this allows organizations that provide support to schools, the students and teachers in Lebanon, to submit their information to the platform. So this includes data on enrollment, the state of faith-based schools and disaggregated by gender, by age, disability, and socioeconomic status. This information is being regularly collected right now and then shared with members of the platform. PESP is focusing on 4 key areas. For the first is to reduce duplication. We want to know who is providing support to the schools, where that support is being provided, and for what purpose. It may be for tuition, it may be support for teacher salaries, it may be support for laptops or other educational materials. Second, we want to improve our decision-making so that we're more strategic in terms of where does the funding go and what it's going to be spent for. 3, it will provide a bigger picture to provide reports about each of the school's needs and assistance in tuition and maintenance, as well as total contributions. And finally, what we hope is that we will see an increase in collaboration between partners to respond to the crisis in private education. And that's a summary of the Education Trust of Lebanon. Thank you very much. And I think now Sari is going to put on a video from one of the schools which has been interviewed recently.
Yes, David, Marta will be sharing the video.
Let me try to get rid of my share. Can you still see the last slide, or is it still there? Okay.
Yeah, we are. You're there. I'm going to share right now.
نحن مدرستنا كتير ضررت بالانفجار، والضرر كان كتير كبير، تخطى تقريبا $1,000,000. كل شيء جوا بعد ما خلص، يعني دهين بعد ما خلص، برادة ما خلص، كل الماتريال اللي تكسر ما تعوض.
بتفوتي على السال ما بتعرفي انه هيدا هي السال، ما بتعرفي انه هيدا هو الصف اللي كنت عم بعلم فيه، هيدا هي أوضة المعلمات، هيدا هو الملعب، ما في شيء مطرحه، ما في شيء ما تكسر او ما تأذى.
بس تجي لهون من بعدها بيوم يومين بتشوفي انه هاي مدرستك يلي إلك مثلا عن 20 سنة عم تشتغلي فيها، حيطان، بواب، ازاز، كله مدمر. يعني إعادة بناء شيء ما لازم يكون هلا، انت لازم تكون عم تشتغلي على مش على البناء، مش على عمار، يعني تكوني هلا وصلتي لمحل عم تأسسي لشيء أبعد.
المدرسة عندنا هون في 1200 تلميذ، وعندنا والمدرسة المجانية فيها تقريبا شي 560 تلميذ، وعندنا تقريبا 150 شخص كينكادر هالتلاميذ هيدول. نحن القسط السنوي عندنا ما بيتخطى 4,900,000، هيدا السنوي، ما في يزيد أكثر من هيك، لأنه بحال زدنا الأهالي ما حتقدر تكمل بالمدرسة، بدها تضطر تروح على غير مدارس اللي ما عندها خيرتين على مدرسة الدولة. وعندنا كتير عيال منن قادرين، يعني أو حالة وفاة أو مرض أو مشاكل مادية، أو اللي شفناه آخر شيء اللي هو الشماج، الأهالي بعتت من شغلها ومش قادر بقى تدفع القسط.
هدول التلاميذ ما قدروا أبداً يدرسوا لأنه ظروفهم جداً جداً صعبة. عندي كتير تلاميذ أهلهم ما بقى عم بيشتغلوا من وراء الأزمة الاقتصادية، عندي تلاميذ خسروا يا خالهم يا ستهم يا بيهم بالظروف الصحية من وراء الكوفيد 19. يعني هول التلاميذ ما قدروا بعتبر يكفوا علمهم من وراء الظروف الصحية والظروف خاصة الاقتصادية.
بعده القطاع التربوي بالرغم من كل التحديات اللي عم بيعيشها بعده عم بيجرب يوقف على رجليه، وبعده عم بيجرب يخلق فرص عمل. إذا تسكر القطاع التربوي عود بسلامتك ما عاد في لبنان. أنا ما بدي أحكي بس على مدرسة، عم بحكي على قطاع تربوي، عم بحكي على كيان لبنان. سبقت كريز اكزيستنسيال، كريز وجودية.
أنا باعتقادي إذا الأزمة بدها تكفي هيك، التعليم مهدد، التعليم بلبنان، القطاع التربوي مهدد. يعني المعلمات تعبانين على كل الأصعدة، والتلاميذ تعبانين نفسياً ومعنوياً واقتصادياً، فالقطاع التربوي مهدد جداً. وأنا بالنسبة لي هيدا أهم قطاع، لأنه هيدا القطاع يلي بيأمن لك استمرارية البلد وبيأمن لك بعدين المستقبل.
الأستاذ ديجا ما قدرت أعطيته إلا نص معاش، ما بقدر أعطيه إلا نص معاش، والأساتذة مخنوقين ومتضايقين مادياً لأنه الليرة دهورت. نص معاش يعني ما بيتخطى 1,000,000 1,500,000، دوك المعاش ما بقى يعمل شيء للأستاذ.
ما فينا نضيع، ما بعتقد يعني، وخاصة هلا إذا دلينا ماشيين مثل نحن ماشيين هلا، ما في يعني ما بيمشي الحال. بتشوفي حواليك منفكر بالأهل، منفكر بالتلاميذ، وهي صح وهيدا حق، عرفتي؟ بس ما في مدرسة ما بتمشي بلا أساتذتها. هول ناس عندهم عيال، عندهم أولاد، عندهم بيوت، عندهم مسؤوليات، عندهم أهلهم. يعني إذا هيدا الإنسان ما أخذ حقه يعني المينيموم، طب كيف بدك تطلبي منه أنت يكون عنده إنتاج فكري إذا هو فكره كل الوقت مهموم كيف بكرة بده يأمن يلي لازم يأمنه لعائلته؟
هلا أنا حفل من المدرسة، بس بفتكر إنه الأجيال اللي جاي لازم تتعرف على الأساتذة اللي نحن ربينا عليهم وعلمونا كتير، لأنه وكل الأساتذة بالمدرسة شابو. يعني حرام الأجيال اللي جاي ما تتعرف عليهم، حرام البلد يخسر ناس مثقفة.
عم بيشتغل هلا لأقدر أبني باريناج ألون تيرم، يعني مش أكور تيرم. أكور تيرم بتحل أزمة هلا، بس ما بتحل أزمة، لأنه إذا تلميذ فلوا من عنا الأهالي تخسر تربية ولادها على مستوى الكاثوليك، لأنه نحن كتير بنشد على الديانة وعلى القيم المسيحية والمبادئ. 150 عائلة عم تشتغل هون، دونك بحال نحن سكرنا 150 عائلة حتخسر شغلها وحترجع تزيد أعداد الشمار بلبنان. وبنفس الوقت كمان المؤسسة اللي عم تستمر بالرسالة التعليمية من مئات السنين كمان حترجع توقف.
القطاع مهدد، وبحس إنه يمكن ما نقدر نكفي بالتعليم، يمكن حتى نوصل لأزمة ما نلاقي أشخاص قادرين يعلموا وأشخاص قادرين يتعلموا، يعني من الجهتين.
هالمدرسة أهلنا ربيوا عليها وأهل أهلنا، فمثل برجع بقول لك ربت أجيال، فشي بيزعل إذا سكرت، فلازم نعمل كل شيء لما تسكر، لأنه حرام وهن عم بيسعوا قد ما فيهم ليأمنوا لنا علم مثل على مستوى.
أتمنى يكون في دعم أكثر لنقدر عن جد هالمسيحية يحسوا إنه في حدا واقف حدهم، في حدا عم بيفكر فيهم، في حدا عم بيقول لهم نحن حدكم، ما تتركوا لبنان حيرجع يقوم. وأنا واثقة بضلني أقول إذا حبت الحنطة ما بتموت ما حتعطي ثمار، وإذا يسوع المسيح ما مات ما كان عشنا طعمة القيامة، دونك لبنان حيرجع يقوم.
Thank you, David, for your presentation and also for this video, which really showed how much it's important to support Caritas Lebanon work in the education field. We will try now to give the floor back to Riad Sargi to finish his presentation on the work of Caritas Syria. I hope this time will be more likely. Riad,
yes,
can you try to connect? Thank you.
Do you hear my voice now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Sorry for the technical issues because electricity is cut off and also the internet very bad. I used 3 different connections, but I don't know. This is the situation in Syria. Okay, I will continue then. Around more than 90% of the Syrian people lived under the poverty line. And they are standing at the doors of charitable organization, NGO, INGO, and association asking for help. The sanctions and boycott in Syria, in addition to the Caesar Act, has negatively affected the lives of the Syrian citizens, normal Syrian citizens, especially the poorest people. As this sanction hit them at the core of their daily lives, so that some of them could only eat bread and drink only water. The garbage containers in the streets become a source of food for the poorest people. All kinds of meat, fruits, and even vegetables have become a dream for the majority of our brothers in the homeland, as well as great suffering due to the lack of means of heating, resulting in the shortage of heating fuel, electricity, and gas, and their high prices if they are available in the black market. Syrian citizens spend many hours of their time in queue for bread, sugar, rice, as well as in front of petroleum stations. Now, for the coronavirus, we arrived, this is an official figures coming from Syrian Ministry of Health, but I'm afraid that the real situation is worse. We arrived to around 48,000 Syrian people affected by coronavirus and around 30,000 recovered. Now the people received the vaccines are under the 5%, is around 4.4% of the Syrian citizen received 2 doses of vaccination. Okay. Therefore, the economical situation is really, really bad and pressing, especially on the youth people. The dream now of the youth people is to leave the country, going ahead to different countries for better life. Therefore, we urgently call international community, especially the European countries, to leave the unjust sanctions and boycott of the Syrian people who are not guilty of facing these unfair sanctions in the 21st century. Thank you very much, and sorry again for the technical problem.
Thank you very much, Riad, and do not be sorry. We are happy that despite the electricity and the internet shortage and all the difficulties, you will be able to bring your very important testimony, and we are also reiterating your appeal about the sanctions. And now, before giving the floor to Caritas Internationalis Secretary General and then to the President of Caritas, Mona, I would just like to thank all of you and to remember you the next and last Caritas Internationalis regional webinar, which will be about Caritas Asia region and will be on December 7th at 9:30 Rome time. As always, you can find all the information about this 70th anniversary initiatives on our website. And I'll give now the floor to Aloysius John for the first part of the conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. First of all, a big thanks to all the participants and all those who presented the sad reality of your region. And there was a lived-in experience where the different interventions had to be cut at different moments. I also want to thank in a special way Monsignor Hinder, who is there. And I would have loved to meet him many times, but today I was able to see, and Monsignor Hinder is there, and I hope we'll be sometimes meet to also to discuss the issues in the region. At this moment where there are lots of challenges and crises, I want to express also the solidarity of the Confederation towards the Middle East and the North Africa region, where the Christians are struggling to have a place in the region. This is also the moment for us to be prophetic and witness the aspiration of the people in your region to liberate themselves from the sufferings, both physical and psychological. I was there 2 weeks back in Beirut, and Karam told me to illustrate the problem. He said, I still remember this, what he told me, that there was a man who was working in the bank, and he was asking how we could get help in a discreet way from Caritas Lebanon. This is the sad reality of the region. If Lebanon has been reduced to this situation, then we can imagine what could be the situation of those who are living in the war-torn areas where they have asked for nothing. At this moment, I think it's very important to say loud and strong that the unilateral sanctions imposed on the region must stop now. It's killing people in daylight. The blind war fueled from outside must come to an end. It cannot continue. If not, innocent lives are being lost. And corruption at all levels, which has brought the nation to the knees and affected the poorest, must be combated. Caritas Internationalis, along with the Mona region, will continue to take this issue in very seriously, and we will certainly work with the region to address this and do all that is possible to help the people to live in dignity. And I also hope that there will be more solidarity from the Western Church, from Europe, to help the Christians in Lebanon and in the Middle East not to leave their homelands and to live there in their hometowns. I thank you once again for your sharings, and we hope and pray that the situation changes. Thank you very much.
And now, Monsieur Hatti, the president of Caritas Mona region and also of Caritas Mauritania. So, Monsieur Hatti, on vous écoute.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Martha. Merci beaucoup pour votre professionnalisme et pour nous avoir fait partager donc ces moments avec votre savoir-faire. Je pense que le secrétaire général...
J'attends pour voir si ça va se faire. Je sais pas.
Continuer.
Just a second. We will have to stop. Mr. Zibou, can you mute yourself?
Zainabou? Okay. Fine.
Je peux continuer?
Vous pouvez continuer, Gabriel.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, Monsieur le secrétaire général, je pense que vous avez tout dit. Et je ne dois pas trop en rajouter parce que vraiment votre conclusion a été exhaustive. Et donc, grâce à la magie du webinaire, nous avons pu vous faire part de la situation de notre région et surtout les beaux témoignages qui ont été faits et des témoignages vraiment éloquents, malgré les difficultés techniques. Je voudrais remercier aussi tous ceux qui ont bien voulu nous suivre et apprécier le travail qui se fait dans nos Caritas, malgré, comme vous le savez, les conditions les plus difficiles. Je voudrais ici aussi lancer un salut particulier à mon ami, le président de Caritas Asie, le docteur Alo Rosario, qui a suivi naturellement tout notre webinaire, et je l'en remercie infiniment. Je voudrais enfin terminer et conclure un salut particulier au Père Michel et lui demander d'être notre interprète avec naturellement le patriarche Rai, d'être notre interprète auprès du Saint-Père pour lui dire combien nous souffrons, mais combien aussi notre capacité de résilience est très forte. Voilà donc le message que je voulais faire et merci beaucoup à tous et à bientôt.
Merci et à bientôt. Au revoir.
Merci, à bientôt.
Merci.
Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you.
Merci.
Good weekend to everybody. Bye.
Bye, Martha. Bye, Aloysius.